What would happen if two materials that seem completely unrelated were mixed together? At first, it might sound strange, unusual, or even a bit impossible. But today, I'm going to show you the unique properties of this unexpected combination, wall paint and PVA glue, and what really happens when they are mixed. Here, I've prepared 2 containers filled with red wall paint. One of the containers is marked, which will later be mixed with PVA glue, while the other one is left unmarked so we can easily compare the results. I added the same amount of water to each container. However, be careful not to add too much, as it can make the paint too runny, which may cause problems with the final result. Now it's time to add one key ingredient that makes this even more interesting. That is PVA glue. I'm adding roughly the same amount of PVA glue as the water added earlier. Make sure it's not too much and not too little, because this balance is the key to achieving the best result. You should know that PVA glue is commonly used by carpenters to bond pieces of wood together. What makes it interesting is that PVA glue mixes easily with water-based materials, which helps this combination blend more smoothly and evenly. Next, I take a welding rod. Yes, you heard that right, a welding rod. Make sure to also prepare a container and a drill. Then, I insert the welding rod into the drill chuck and secure it tightly. I hold the tip of the rod with pliers, and then turn on the drill. As it spins, the coating on the surface of the welding rod will gradually start to come off. Do this slowly and carefully. Don't rush the process to achieve the best result. After this step, we end up with a strong wire that we can use to improve the mixing process. We also get some powder from the welding rod, which I'll explain later. Now, bend the tip of the wire twice until it looks like a fishing hook. And just like that, we've made a simple but powerful mixing tool to get a smoother and more perfect result. Insert the wire into the drill, then use it as a mixing tool to blend the materials until they are even and consistent. This mixing process is crucial, as it plays a key role in the success of the final result. Make sure to stir slowly and steadily, allowing all the materials to fully combine. As the mixing continues, the PVA glue will gradually change color to match the base paint, as if it is completely blending in and disappearing into the mixture. At first glance, there's no visible difference in color. Both still appear equally red. Next, I'll mix the container that only has water added. However, I'm using a different mixing tool to avoid any contamination with the PVA mixture. This ensures that the results remain pure, so we can clearly see the difference between the two. Now that everything is fully mixed, both containers still look exactly the same, no visible difference at all. But here's where things get interesting. The real difference only shows up when this mixture is actually applied. This paint and PVA glue combination is ready, and the final result is going to be something truly unexpected. Here, I've prepared the testing surfaces. First, there are 2 plywood boards, and one of them is marked so we can easily distinguish the results later. I've also prepared a paving block, which can represent a wall surface since the material is quite similar. The paving block is also marked, allowing us to clearly see the differences in the final results. First, I apply the wall paint that has only been mixed with water onto the surface of the paving block or wall. For the application, I'm using a paintbrush. However, for larger surfaces, you can also use a paint roller to achieve a more even finish and faster coverage. Since this is just a demonstration, I'm using a brush. Take a look at the result. The red color looks quite good, even with just water added. Now, I'm going to apply the paint that has been mixed with PVA glue. For consistency, I'm using the same paintbrush so we can make a fair comparison. See, the result still looks the same. There's no noticeable difference yet. But don't worry, the real difference will become visible at the final stage. Now, I'll continue by applying it to the plywood surface. You should know that wall paint is generally not suitable for application on plywood or wooden surfaces. However, in this test, I'm applying two different mixtures. The first is wall paint mixed only with water, and the second is wall paint combined with PVA glue. At first glance, this may seem like a simple combination, but I believe that once you see the final result, you'll be surprised, and might even wonder why you haven't used this technique before. Once everything is done, let the paint dry completely. The drying time typically takes around 8 to 10 hours, depending on the weather and environmental conditions. Make sure the paint is fully dry to achieve the best results. While waiting for the paint to dry, I'm going to show you another benefit of the welding rod powder we collected earlier. For this, you only need a simple household ingredient, baking soda. Mix the two powders in a 1:2 ratio, 1 part welding rod powder and 2 parts baking soda. However, since the welding rod powder is still quite coarse, it's best to grind it first to achieve a finer and more effective mixture. This mixture is quite versatile. Here, I've also prepared a ready-made version, which I often use for various practical purposes. This mixture can be stored in a sealed container and used anytime when needed. What makes it interesting is that you won't find this sold in stores, and very few people know about it. Here, I'm going to use it to try joining two pieces of metal. The mixture consists of welding rod powder and baking soda that we prepared earlier. For the joining process, I first use masking tape to hold the metal pieces in place so they don't shift. This helps keep everything stable and makes the application of the powder mixture more precise. After both metal pieces are secured with tape, it's time to join them using this mixture. Before starting, I place a base underneath to keep the surface clean during the process. The method is simple. Pour the powder into the gap between the two metal pieces, making sure to fill the entire space evenly. Do this slowly and gradually to achieve a cleaner and more effective result. Once all the gaps are filled with the powder, the final step is to pour super glue over it. Apply it slowly so the glue can fully soak into the powder, allowing the metal pieces to bond more securely. This method can be a practical alternative if you don't have a welding machine, or for small projects that require joining metal in a simpler way. As a result, the glue dries quickly and the powder hardens almost instantly, forming a strong bond. Next, repeat the same process on the remaining gaps until everything is fully connected. Once the process is complete, you can sand the surface to make it look cleaner and more refined. Even though this method is simple, the result can be surprisingly impressive. Now, I'm going to test the strength of this joint to see how effective this no welding method really is. Now, I'm going to try bending the metal joint. If the bond is not strong enough, the pieces will separate, or at least small cracks will appear, indicating that the method is not effective. This test will show how strong the joint really is. Look at the result. It's truly impressive. The metal bends without any visible cracks in the bonded area. Now, I'm going to test the other side. The result is the same. The metal bends without any cracks in the bonded area. This shows that the method of joining metal using a mixture of welding rod powder and baking soda is quite effective, especially in emergency situations. Not only for joining metal, this mixture can also be used for filling holes, repairing cracked plastic surfaces, and various other repair purposes. Store this powder mixture in a sealed container to maintain its quality so it can be used anytime when needed. Now, let's take a look at the paint after it has fully dried. At first glance, the difference is already quite noticeable. The plywood surface coated with the mixture of wall paint and PVA glue appears richer in color and more visually appealing. In contrast, the surface painted with only water-mixed paint looks more faded and less solid. Next, on the paving block or wall surface, the difference is also very clear. The surface painted with only water-mixed paint appears more faded. Meanwhile, the one mixed with PVA glue looks more solid, more vibrant, and noticeably stronger in color. On the plywood surface painted with only water-mixed paint, scratching it with a fingernail leaves visible marks. This happens because the paint lacks a protective layer, making it more prone to scratches. However, the result is very different on the surface painted with a mixture of wall paint and PVA glue. The coating appears stronger and more resistant to scratches. This shows that PVA glue not only improves the overall paint quality but also acts as a protective layer. In addition, it enhances the adhesion of the paint, allowing it to stick better and last longer. So, this mixture of wall paint and PVA glue can be applied to various surfaces, including wood, as we've tested earlier. It not only enhances the appearance with richer and sharper colors, but also improves the overall quality of the paint layer. As a result, the paint has better adhesion and is more resistant to weather, heat, and rain, allowing the finished surface to last longer and maintain its appearance over time. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, make sure to subscribe now. Join our community because we'll continue sharing many more creative ideas. Feel free to share this video with your friends and family. This idea might be useful for them in the future. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next creative idea.